At last, the pod has come along. Welcome to the John DuLong Show. Welcome to episode number 19. Don't ask me why, but it feels like 19 is a big number. Like, it's really no different than it was last week. You know, it's only one more than 18. 18 didn't feel important. 19, it's not like it's a round number. It's, I don't know, it just feels like... Maybe it's because it's like the age of majority here in Nova Scotia. That it feels like a big deal to me. I don't know. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, welcome to the John DuLong Show. I'm John DuLong. Welcome to your weekly dose of the Monday morning nonsense. So glad to have you here. Really happy for the feedback that we got for last week's episode. Of course, had Natalia Ryan on the show where we chatted about meditation, about yoga, about mindfulness in general. Really great chat. Always a delight to speak to Natalia. And you know what? We weren't even interrupted by her niece, who she was looking after during that show, which was a rare treat, I guess. So back half of last week's episode, I promised a special announcement. We're not going to fiddle fuck around here, folks. We're going to go right into it, and we're going to bring up what used to be the Cheers and Jeers music, and now it's the special announcement music. And it's going to be the music for a couple of other things, which will become clear once I get into the announcement. So, as the bard says, since brevity is the soul of wit, I shall be brief and get right into it. So I've said it countless times since I started this show, and maybe to the point where it's starting to sound sarcastic to you, but I'm absolutely blown away by the level of support that I get for this show, the feedback that I get from this show. You folks, you make me feel real special every single week, and this is just a wonderful hobby for me, and I absolutely love doing it. That having been said, there are some costs that go along with it, and I want to keep on growing this show, which means that there are going to be more costs associated with running the show. Of course, I want to keep this absolutely free to everybody who wants to listen to it at all times. I don't ever want to be dealing with a paywall, just because that seems, if nothing else, that seems like a lot of work. But what I am doing is I'm launching a Patreon. Patreon.com/The John DuLong Show. I put this together a few months ago and decided to wait until the time was right, and I think that time is now. I want to be able to upgrade the equipment on this show. I mean, I've got a pretty good microphone now, but I'd like to have a soundboard. I'd like to get a second microphone so that we could do guests sort of in studio. I'd like to commission artwork for the show. I've already kind of done that, but I'd like to be able to pay for these commissions a little bit better. I'd like to be able to start a website. I'd like to do a whole bunch of different things. Advertise the show, get the word out there. All of that takes money, and like I said, I'm doing this as a hobby. I'm a poor student, so I'm hoping to reach out through Patreon to see if anybody wants to chuck a little change my way. Like I said, it's completely optional. It's always going to be a free show. This is just going to help me be able to provide a slightly better product long term, and it's going to help me be able to sort of target what I need to do in order to help the show grow. So it's not just a situation, of course, where I'm going to ask for money and give nothing in return. As you may know, on Patreon, you can do different reward tiers. So we're starting with 4 different tiers, and I'll run them down really quickly. At $1 a month or more, you're going to get access to our Patreon-only RSS feed. That's where I'm going to post a weekly sort of after show, where I'm just going to maybe expand on something that I said on the show, or maybe talk about something that I didn't get to on the show. Maybe something pops up in the news that I'm really interested in, and I want to toss that out there as well. The show's going to be called John Patronizes You, because wordplay is fun. And of course, from this, you'll also get my undying gratitude and love, which will give you a nice little feeling in the pit of your stomach. At $5, you're going to get everything that you get at the $1 level, in addition to getting your name read out in the credits of the show. So just at the end of the show there, where I talk about Mon Plaisir, where I talk about where you can find the show on social media, where you can find me on social media, you get a little credit there as a patron of the show. So a special thanks to you. You'll get that as well as my undying gratitude and love. At the $10 level, you're getting into the double digits. At $10, you're going to receive everything above, but instead of that shout out at the end of the show, at the beginning of the program, after the jangly banjo music fades out, we'll put this music up, and you'll be listed as a friend of the pod. You're going to have access to the Patreon-only show, my undying gratitude, which is really why you're doing this in the first place, but then also that little friend of the pod call out at the beginning of the program. And then if you're really wacky and you want to give $20 a month, first of all, thank you. That'd be insane, but I would really appreciate it. At $20 a month, you're going to get a special brought to you by credit at the top of the program once a month. That's going to be a once a month recurring thing as long as you're at that level. And then in addition, and this is going to be the one Patreon level that has a physical manifestation of my undying gratitude and love, I'm going to mail you some sort of letter, and then of course I'll have your shipping information at that point. And down the line, there may be other gifts that get sent to you if you're still at that level. But to start with, anyhow, you'll get a letter, which, like I said, is the only physical manifestation of the gratitude and undying love that I have for you in the pit of my cold little heart. Anyhow, like I said, this is always going to be a free show. I'm never going to charge anything for it. But if you feel that this is worth something, feel like it's worth subsidizing somebody else to listen to the show for free, that'd be really fantastic. Now, I've set a monthly goal of $25. Now, if we make it to that $25, that's gonna, any money that comes into the show is gonna help me to upgrade equipment, to have a little kitty for commissioning work for the show. But if we make that $25 a month goal, every single month that we hit that, I will upload a full episode of the show on top of the normal episodes of the show that you get every week. So in addition to the normal doses of the Monday morning nonsense, once a month you'll get a bonus episode, which will be like a numbered episode and a full hour long, along the lines of a normal episode, not along the lines of those 5 quick bonus 5-minute episodes that I've released in the past. So that's the story there. That's what this special announcement was all about. So again, you can go to patreon.com/The John Dulong Show. Or, actually, smaller bit of news, you can go to johndulong.com/Patreon. johndulong.com now will lead you to the Spreaker page for the show, so where you can see all of the episodes of the show there. If you go to johndulong.com/Patreon, you'll get to the Patreon page. So, nice little bit of synergy there. And that's where you can donate if you want to become a patron of the show. And as soon as we start to have patrons on the show, that's when I'll start releasing the John Patronizes You episodes. So looking forward to that. And again, I'm not going to be the type to overplug the Patreon or anything like that. Sometimes the shows will become a weird commercial for their Patreon. That's not what this is going to be about. You'll hear about it. You'll hear about it once at the end of the show every single week, and then we'll go from there. If it's successful, we'll maybe look at other goals and other reward tiers we can offer down the line. But I'm keeping things modest. I don't want to ask a whole lot of you, the audience. Again, if you think that you can give, I would absolutely appreciate it and love it. And that's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to get into the thrust of the episode here. We're going to talk about wrestling again this week. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to go into as much of it as I did last week, I don't think. But Road to WrestleMania is here, so that's what's on my brain. We're also going to talk about Liverpool Football Club. and how that season is shaping up. I'm feeling oddly, weirdly optimistic about things, and we're going to talk about that a bit more. Yeah, I think that's going to be it. There's going to be other things on this show, I imagine, but I don't quite know what they are yet. Sometimes we just fly by the seat of our pants, and by sometimes, I mean literally every episode. I pretty much just open up news on my browser and find something to ramble about. It's what you've come to know and love and expect from the John DuLong Show. So we'll start with the road WrestleMania. We'll start with Roman Reigns right after this. So as I mentioned previously, we're right into the high holy days for professional wrestling fans. It's like our Easter weekend if it lasted 3 months. We're into sort of the that weird stretch in between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania itself, where things are mostly, I guess, pretty much set on both shows. There's obviously still a bunch of stuff that could happen, but it's kind of clear the direction that things are kind of moving. We just recently WWE put out their most recent pay-per-view offering, which was the Elimination Chamber, which is a terrible name for a pretty good show, and the number one contendership for Brock Lesnar's WWE Universal Championship was set, and surprising precisely no one, it went to Roman Reigns. So to give you sort of a sense of who Roman Reigns is, he is biologically The Rock's cousin. He's which means he's kind of from wrestling royalty. That family is goes back I think almost 4 generations now. It could they be on their 4th? I know Rock was technically a 3rd generation wrestler. I think it's possible. I think that Roman is technically in the same generation as The Rock, but I think it's possible that there are other people in that family who are technically 4th generation wrestlers. I'll have to take a look into that. Sort of the NOI family tree is huge and kind of includes a lot of names that you might know. The Wild Samoans, Afa and Sika, Rikishi. A lot of fans from the 90s will know who Rikishi is. The Usos, who are Rikishi's sons. And, of course, Roman Reigns. The thing with Roman Reigns is that he was sort of victim to some really bad storytelling, as far as I'm concerned. He was maybe pushed to the top of the card a little bit too hard, a little bit too quickly. He maybe wasn't quite there yet in terms of his in-ring work. Once he was starting to get the corporate machine behind him. All of that doesn't interest me that much. Not least of which because Roman is a very good wrestler now. He's really come into his own. I think that he's gotten a whole lot better on the microphone in terms of his interviews, his promos. He's certainly not that bad. There's a couple of problems, though, that I do have with Roman Reigns. First of all, he's portrayed sort of simultaneously as being an underdog and as being anti-establishment,